Hello, and welcome to Your Holistic Earth podcast. My name is Kat Halushka, and I am your host for today. I'm so excited. On this episode, we're going to have Lisa Wilson, Human Resources, Cultural Consultant, and Leadership Vision Coach. First, let me tell you about Your Holistic Earth. Your Holistic Earth is a bridge that connects you to local and national experts in the field of your holistic medicine. On each episode of this podcast, we're going to bring in experts that are going to help you be healthier and have an increased sense of well-being. Lisa is a leadership corporate coach, certified human resources leader, and a trained mediator. She had an HR career spanning 15 years. Now, the best part of having a human resources department is that you have a management expert at your disposal. As a leader, when an issue comes up, and I know it does, this is not my first business, that you aren't sure how to deal with, you walk into the HR department and they walk you through it. Not all companies have this. So I'm super excited to have Lisa on this episode today. Welcome, Lisa.
Thanks, Kat. I'm so excited to be here.
Let's just dive in. Tell us more about what it is that you do and how you help people.
So I work with small to medium-sized companies, hence I've been involved with Your Holistic Earth. And I really help the leaders in those companies and the business owners. What I say is move from doing the work to leading the work. So that takes two very different skill sets. And being that leader means that you're now getting the work done through others. And that takes a whole different way of being for yourself and a whole different skill set. And so I help people move into that and get comfortable with that and gain confidence in that.
I love it. And I know that human resources and then leadership coaching, how did you connect the two? So how did you come to the leadership coaching?
Actually, I was working in a really awful job and I met a coach and she started talking about what she did. And I was working with a very difficult manager at the time. We didn't mesh. And I was sitting with her and a woman that worked for her. And we were describing the best boss we'd ever had. And the girl sitting there was describing her and how awesome she was. Mm-hmm. And we just started talking. And so then I went and took the coaching course. And it really wasn't a big jump for me. I'd already really been doing that because I always say what made me good as an HR manager wasn't that I was the best policy follower or anything like that. What I was good at was coaching the managers to be better managers, making my life a whole pile easier.
Oh, I wish my managers had you.
Well, they can.
Right. Let me call my business partner. So I'd love to know, what are some of the common misconceptions when it comes to human resources and the leadership of the human? I just feel like those two are so tied together. And I know one of the things that probably is on everybody's mind is, how soon is too soon to get human resources department?
Well, I think at the end of the day, the when it's right is when you have enough money to hire someone extra, right? Because one of the things for a whole human resources department is effectively we're overhead, right? So you have to be bringing in enough money to have someone full time, which is why I do what I do as a consultant, because you can bring me in to help when you need me. So really, it's when you're getting to the point that things are getting too big to handle, when you have a lot of more managers now, as you're building, you probably need someone who's doing payroll and things like that, which sometimes falls under HR earlier on. But to have the full HR department, probably looking at getting to 100 employees or so. But prior to that, getting the help from a consultant or a coach like myself, a lot easier, more affordable. And like I said, we can be there when you need us instead of paying someone to be there full time.
Yeah. And we're a small but powerful company right now. Profitable Impact Academy is about 6-7 people. We don't quite have managers besides ourselves. And so what I'm wondering is, what are some of the situations that can happen in a company that we would want to bring in an HR consultant?
So I like to come in early. This is my thing. I always say, get them small. So the reason I call myself as a human resources cultural consultant is because I used to work for large corporations. And when they tried to change their culture, it took forever. So when they started, they're just focused on, production and doing what you need to do and selling and all of those things. And so when you're getting to your size, now you're at the point where if you said you're around 8 to 10, you're right at that number now, where when you're like 3, 4, 5, you can be like, everything can be done without any policies, procedures, anything like that. You don't need it because there's 4 or 5 of you. You can easily communicate between each other. Not such a big deal. When you start to get to 8 to 10, it gets harder now. Now you have to like have a few more policies, procedures, things like that, or people don't get the information. And that's where the culture starts to slip. And so I say, when you're at that size, that's when I like to come in, because then I work with you to create like a conscious culture. What do we want our company to be? So we often do this really well with marketing. This is who we want to be as far as marketing goes, but it doesn't always relate into how we treat our staff. And that's where I work. One of my favorite sayings is, if you're saying you're the friendliest company in the world and you're yelling at people in the back room, yeah, you're not the friendliest company in the world. So if you're yelling at your staff, right? So you want to make sure that whatever you're saying you're congruent with that, and how you treat people.
Absolutely. You got to live your truth, right?
Yeah. And it's harder than you realize when you're in that leadership role, because we all have bad days, and we'll say or do things that we don't really realize, or, or we'll rush someone through a conversation and then they don't feel heard, realize that that's telling them for the next time, don't speak up. Right. So there's all of these little things that we do that we don't really realize, that you kind of have to go back and fix. Because as the leader, how you show up is affecting how your team shows up for the rest of it, like going forward, not just in that day, but going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. What would be like one tip that you can give to business owners and entrepreneurs out there who are growing?
Oh, there's so many. I think the big thing is what I mentioned before is being conscious. Be really conscious about what your vision is and where you want to go and what your values are, and then act in those values. So I always say people have really good bullshit detectors. Maybe I'm not supposed to swear, bull crap detectors. They have really good detectors. So if you're behaving in one way but saying you're something else, people will catch on to that. And it'll catch on really quickly when you start to hire staff, because when you start to hire staff, they see you all day, right?
Yeah.
So they start to recognize it, and then that's what you start to put out there, and that's what your company becomes, whether you realize it or not. Because when you're in a huge corporation, it's harder to control the culture, because the culture is controlled by the stories that people tell. I worked for a really great company. They controlled the stories.
Oh.
They controlled the stories. They would go and tell the stories, and they would, through training and things like that. They were really smart in that way, because they kept the culture going. It wasn't perfect by any means. It was a very large corporation, and it wasn't perfect, but better than anyone else I'd ever worked for, because they made sure they were sharing the stories that they wanted shared out there.
Yeah. Lisa, it sounds like you have tremendous amount of experience in what it is you do, and I can tell you're passionate.
Yes.
just by how you dive in. What are some of the obstacles that you had to overcome that made you the best person when it comes to the HR and leadership?
So a couple of things that I'll share, 2 different things. So first was, I've worked for really great companies, as I shared. I've also worked for some not so great companies, and I've worked with some managers that weren't so great. Conveniently for me, I worked for the great ones first, so I knew it was out there. I just had to go back and find it. And so that's what's made me really good at starting at seeing the little behaviors that change your culture and things like that. But the reason for being in Your Holistic Earth, and why I wanted to come and work with the companies that are involved with Your Holistic Earth, is because I went through, we'll call it a medical problem. I have no idea. It has no name. I just have no energy. I had half my thyroid removed, and my thyroid is functioning properly. I should be fine. I'm not. It's been 6 years. I used to do P90X and CrossFit and mountain biking and snowboarding and things like that. And since the thyroid removal, I can walk my dog for 20 minutes a day and do 10 minutes of some form of other exercise. But even some days I can't do that. Today is one of those days. I needed a little extra time today. I couldn't exercise. I walked the dog, came home and just did some stretching, because that's all I can do today. My body was telling me, no, you're not, no more exercise today. And so it's been 6 years of trying to work with the medical community as far as they were concerned. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with me. They kept trying to deal with symptoms. So things like my blood sugar went up, my cholesterol went up. They were just trying to put me on pills to deal with the symptoms, and I refused. And what really helped me out was all of these holistic healers, because they started to help me understand what my body needed, and help me listen to what my body needs. Mm-hmm. So this morning, a couple of years ago, that would have been unheard of. I would have pushed through and I wouldn't have been able to sit here with you. I would have been exhausted sitting here. But now today I knew, okay, I looked at my day and I went, okay, you're really tired. Don't do the exercise this morning, so that I could be here and show up for this, right? But it's been a long journey, and I'm so grateful that there was the holistic healers out there, because really the medical community really wasn't helping in the least. And it's been a long journey. I am far better off now than I was even 2 years ago. I was sharing this story with someone yesterday, but I got to a point where I was just so frustrated, I became depressed. And in the last 2 years have come out of that depression, and I'm feeling a lot better, but I'm still not back to who I used to be. And I've just accepted now that I'm not going to be that again. And that's okay. Yeah.
It's amazing. You have an incredible story, Lisa. And I'm sure right now, with everything happening in the world, people can really relate to just not having energy and not being at their 100%. So it's incredible that you listen to yourself. I think that's such a great lesson right there. Is just listen to yourself, listen to your body. And I love it that you took what happened to you and turned it into a huge part of your business, and teaching other people the leadership division, how to support yourself, right? How to get yourself rested so you can run and build the company that you want. Exactly. So that's incredible. Thank you so much for coming on, Lisa, and sharing your genius. It's been a pleasure getting to know you. Thank you for sharing and truly being here.
Thanks, Kat. This was awesome.
And for those of you who are listening in, make sure to check out other episodes with incredible holistic experts over at Your Holistic Earth podcast. And you can check out the community and some of the incredible, knowledgeable people over at profitableimpactacademy.com/yourholisticearth or profitableimpactacademy.com/YHE. Have a fantastic day.